Hey guys, so just like last time, we want to take a look if we can and see if we can't figure out how to solve an equation. Now last time we went to solve an equation, we were solving an equation that involved adding or subtracting, and we said the trick to that was understanding that solving an equation is a lot like being a little kid. Whatever the equation does, you have to do the exact opposite. So the opposite of adding was subtracting. The opposite of subtracting was adding. And so that's it. Really, if you knew that, you knew what you need to know. Now we're going to do the same thing, but this time with multiplying. And the big thing you have to understand here is that the opposite of multiplying is dividing. And if you know that, you're going to be great. So let's take a quick look and see if we can't figure that out. So unmultiplying is just dividing. So here we are saying, what this equation is saying right here is some number multiplied by 5 equals 15. Now you may be able to do that in your head, in which case, great, do it in your head. But if you can't, we can apply the same principle we did last time, which is they are doing something to make this complicated. They've taken our number and they've multiplied it by 5. And what is the opposite of multiplying by 5? Well, the opposite of multiplying is just dividing. So if they've multiplied by 5, we're going to divide by 5, and that's going to undo that. Now, the thing to keep in mind is that if we divide one side by 5, we must divide the other side by 5 because that's how an equation works. You always have to do the same to both sides. So we can say the opposite of multiplying by 5 is dividing by 5. And now our next line then would be easy. On this side, we're going to line that equal sign up. That's always good form. The only thing left over here is our number x, and we can say our number x is just equal to 15 divided by 5, and then you can do that in a calculator or in your head if you can do it in your head, but 15 divided by 5 is 3. And so what we can figure out then is that our number must be equal to 3. So just like last time, the trick to this whole thing is just to undo what's been done. So let's do a couple of these together. Here's a simple one. Some number x times 3 is equal to 21. Again, we don't know what the number x is. They haven't told us that. What they have told us is that if you take the number x and you multiply it by 3, you get 21. So they've confused it. They've made our number tricky by multiplying by 3. And the opposite of multiplying by 3 is dividing by 3. That's going to help us get rid of this side altogether. But what I do to one side of an equation, I have to do to the other side of an equation. And if you can do that in your head, fantastic. If you can't do it in your head, well, that's okay. We're going to line that equal sign up. We always line the equal sign up, and the only thing left over here is our number we don't know. It had been confused by multiplying by 3, but we undid that because we unmultiplied, we divided. But what I do to one side, I have to do to the other, so this side has to be 21 divided by 3. Again, if you can do that in your head, awesome. If you can't, plug it into a calculator. 21 divided by 3 is 7. So our number has to be 7. And if you're ever in doubt, you can go back and check it. We know that our number times 3 should be 21. So take what we think our number is, times it by 3. And if we've done our math right, it's got to be 21, which it is. So there we go. Now, something you're going to come across is that this isn't the only way to show multiplication. In fact, the most common way you're going to see multiplication shown is just by writing the number next to the letter. And in math, the default operation is multiplying. So when all else fails, if two numbers are next to each other, it means to multiply them. So in this case, 6 next to x means 6 times x. I should say multiplying. So this means x times 6. But more often than not, we just write it this way. So you have to be ready for that, because this is usually how they're actually going to show you multiplication, because it's easier and quicker and just simpler to do. So you have to know that that means x times 6. But once you know that, this becomes an easy question, because how have they complicated the x? They've multiplied it by 6. And the opposite of multiplying by 6 is still just dividing by 6. So we'd take that and we'd cross it out. And this is going to be 15 divided by 6. And this, I don't know if this is going to work out nicely, but that's okay. We line up those equal signs. The only thing left over here is the x, because it had been multiplied by 6, but we undid that by dividing by 6. So it's going to be 15 divided by 6. And this I definitely don't think you're going to be able to do in your head, because it doesn't work nicely. This one's going to give us a decimal answer. 15 divided by 6 is... Oh, even OneNote isn't liking me right now. There we go. 2.5. So this one had a decimal answer. And again, if you're ever stressed, you can say, well, wait a minute, 6 by 2.5, because 6 times our number should be equal to 15. And it is. So there we go. We know we did it right. So when you just see a number next to a letter, or two things next to each other, it means to multiply them. We can also do this with decimal places. This one has a decimal place, but we're not going to be intimidated by that. We know that this means multiplying, because when we see a number next to a letter, we know that that just means multiplying. So we don't stress about that. And the opposite of multiplying is dividing. So if they've multiplied by 7.2, we're going to divide by 7.2. And that's going to make those cancel out. But what I do to one side, I must do to the other. And that means if we write this out again, we line that equal sign up, that's good form. All that's left is over here is x, because it used to be multiplied by 7.2, but we've undone that. And 91.2 divided by 7.2. Maybe you can do that in your head, in which case great. I can't do that in my head, so I'm going to come here. I know it should be on the order of like close to 13, a little less than 13. Let's see what we get. 91.2 divided by 7.2 is equal to 12.66666, going on forever. And so I'm just going to write 12. Actually, I'm just going to write it exactly how that spit it out for me. We could round this if we wanted to, but the calculator's already rounded it for me. There we go. So we're not afraid of decimal places. So that's it. With multiplying, just like with adding, the trick is to just do the opposite of what the math has done. So hopefully that made some kind of sense to you. One can hope. And when you see a question like this, don't be intimidated. Don't be scared. You know what you're doing. If it's multiplying, you're going to do the opposite of multiplying.